I'm Pastor Deb, and welcome to part 6 of our 6-part Summer Devotional Series. Next week in worship, we'll begin to look at the book by the prophet Nehemiah. Our sermon series is called Building Together. So I thought for this last devotion, as we head into that sermon series, I would give you a preview of the Book of Nehemiah and give you some things to think about today and going forward as we progress through the sermon series. The Book of Nehemiah is a story of the rebuilding of the wall of Jerusalem. I would like to read for you chapter 1. The words of Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah. In the month of Kislev, in the 20th year, while I was in the citadel of Susa, Hanani, one of my brothers, came from Judah with some other men, and I questioned them about the Jewish remnant that had survived the exile, and also about Jerusalem. They said to me, "Those who survived the exile and are back in the province are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates have been burned with fire." When I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. Then I said, "Lord, the God of heaven, the great and awesome God, who keeps his covenant of love with those who love him and keeps his commandments, let your ear be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer your servant is praying before you day and night for your servants, the people of Israel. I confess the sins we Israelites, including myself and my father's family, have committed against you. We have acted very wickedly toward you. We have not obeyed the commands, decrees, and laws you gave your servant Moses. Remember the instruction you gave your servant Moses, saying, 'If you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the nations. But if you return to me and obey my commands, then even if your exiled people are at the farthest horizon, I will gather them from there and bring them to the place I have chosen as a dwelling for my name. They are your servants and your people, whom you redeemed by your great strength and your mighty hand. Lord, let your ear be attentive to the prayer of this your servant and to the prayer of your servants who delight in revering your name. Give your servant success today by granting him favor in the presence of this man. I was cupbearer to the king." So Nehemiah's story starts with a burden. He gets the report back that Jerusalem is in shambles, that the people are in disgrace, that the gates have been burned down and the wall is broken. He is so brokenhearted by this news that he sits down and he weeps. Nehemiah doesn't begin to tackle the problem immediately. Instead, he brings his burden before God. Before Nehemiah can fix the brokenness surrounding the city, he needs to have God fix the brokenness in the people. Once the people are right before God, then they can move forward with rebuilding the wall and the community. So that's what he prays for, right? He prayed for God's forgiveness and to help them turn themselves right. And he reminds God of his promise that, hey, you said if we were in exile, if we turned around and began to follow your laws and your commands again, you would gather us back and bring us back together as your beloved people. So imagine, eventually, it is a foreign king, the king of Persia, who allows Nehemiah to go back with people to rebuild that wall of Jerusalem. So spoiler alert. So imagine in the background what God is pulling together so that that king will allow Nehemiah and those people to do that and go and rebuild the wall. So even in the midst of all that brokenness, God is still working. And God is arranging things in the background for things to work out the way God plans. What is burdening you? What is breaking your heart? Imagine what God is working in the background to remedy those things that make you feel broken and brokenhearted. What is burdening you? What has God put on your heart? Look around. Are there things that are going on in the world that God has put in your heart that they're just not right and they need to change? Maybe it's not something that's global. Maybe it's something right in your own family that's just not right. And God has placed it on your heart. So what is your first move? And that is to take that burden to God. Once you know what it is, go to God in prayer. That's what Nehemiah did first. Ask God what you should do next. What is the next step? Because whatever the next step is, it's very likely you're not doing it on your own strength. You're going to need God's help to do it. So consider what you're burdened about. And consider offering this very brief prayer. Oh God, I am burdened about. You fill in your burden. What should I do next? I want to make a difference. Help me to make a difference. Amen. I know things are very challenging right now. Things are very uncertain in the midst of this pandemic. We've been dealing with this for 5.5, nearly 6 months. And who knew that this would go on so long? And who knows how much longer it will go on? There's uncertainty about schools and gatherings and in-person eating and outside eating and all kinds of things. And people have a lot of different feelings about all of it. Maybe there's other things on your heart. Maybe there are things in your family that seem to be breaking things apart, and you so just want your family to be whole. I urge you to take all those burdens to God and to fervently pray, what's next? But then to wait for the word from God on what is next. And when you get it, act on it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Maybe that's online. Maybe it's at in-person worship. Maybe you just happen to be walking across the campus parking lot. But I do miss you, and I look forward to seeing you all when we do. God bless you, and God keep you. Have peace, my friends.